going. Okay. Well, thank you for coming this evening, this beautiful day that you're coming here to hear the students from 6 local universities talk about climate change. In the first part of this evening's programs, the student panelists will answer a set of 3 questions. The students worked together ahead of time to develop the 3 topics. This section will be followed by discussion answering questions from you in the audience. Please put your questions into the chat box at any time. We hope to be able to answer them all during the second part of the program. And our thanks to Geneva Blackmare, PhD candidate, for providing the technical assistance tonight. If you have a technical issue, please ask Geneva directly via the chat box. And as mentioned, this meeting is being recorded. Now, I have the honor of introducing Clare Ravissa, who will moderate the first part of the program. Clare, a senior at Xavier University, is co-chair of Xavier's Student Sustainability Board and an intern for the University Sustainability Committee. Clare, take it away.
Thank you, Joanne. So for the first portion of this event, each panelist will respond to 3 questions, each in 2 or 3 minutes or less, to ensure that we have time for audience questions at the end. I will be keeping the time and will give each panelist a 30-second warning to complete your answer by raising the clap emoji on my screen. So panelists, please keep an eye out for that and then go ahead and finish up your thoughts. And with that, let's begin. Thank you, panelists, all for being here. First, we'll begin with Drew Brown, a 3rd-year student at Mount St. Joseph University, studying biology, chemistry, and sustainability studies, and a member of the Student Environmental Enthusiast Club. Drew, in your biography, you mentioned that you were involved in an environmental organization on your campus. Please describe the greatest accomplishment of your organization and why it was successful or important. You have 3 minutes.
Hi, everyone. So as Claire said, my name is Drew Brown. Unfortunately, being a transfer student and due to COVID, last semester was my first in-person semester at MSJ. That being said, I haven't had too much of a chance to get super involved in many organizations on campus, but I am a member of the Student Environmental Enthusiast Club. However, today I'd like to talk to you about one of the accomplishments of the Sustainability Committee at MSJ. So the Beyond the Bin recycling program, which is created by Colleen McSwiggan, has been very successful. This program gives students, faculty, and members of the community the opportunity to recycle their non-traditionally recyclable items. So these can include batteries, shoes, packing peanuts, CDs and DVDs, and many other types of items. And in the very first collection year, which was 2018 to 2019, 25 pairs of gym shoes, 61 pairs of prescription glasses, 50 pounds of number 1 to 7 plastics, over 100 pounds of denim, and 36 pounds of batteries. And that's just to name a few, were all collected within the year. And so I just think a lot of people don't think twice about the things that they're sending to the landfill that they wouldn't usually think to be able to recycle. So this program just offers a much more sustainable alternative, and I think it could eventually maybe be extended to possibly like grade schools that are in the area as well.
Thank you, Drew. Next, I'd like to introduce Cassie Conrad, a senior at Miami University and president of Zero Waste Oxford and leadership team member of EcoReps. Cassie, same question for you. You have 3 minutes.
All right. Hello, everyone. As Claire said, I am involved in a couple of student organizations at Miami University, but the one I'll be talking about in reference to this question is Zero Waste Oxford, which is a student organization kind of focused around the zero waste movement. And it's still a rather new organization. It's in its technically 5th year now, as it started in the spring semester a few years ago. And our largest accomplishment is definitely our pop-up thrift store. So what we do is we rent a space in our student union building, and it's all donation run. It's all volunteer run with members of our organization. And we're able to keep it open for quote unquote normal store hours, approximately 9 to 5 during an entire week. And in the past, pre-pandemic, we were able to do multiple per semester. And with some COVID-19 barriers, we kind of had to put a halt to it for a bit, but now we're back at it and we're hosting another one this semester as we did last semester since our hiatus with the pandemic. And it's definitely an accomplishment because it's something that even me as a first year at the time, like didn't really think was possible because it's such a big feat, you know, gathering enough donations to be able to sell and for such an event to recur even during one semester was really impressive. You know, of course, we faced barriers with administration and getting space, and then dealing with storage in another part of campus, getting the volunteers, all of those sorts of things. And I think it's really been influential in showing students who may not be familiar with secondhand shopping or thrifting, upcycling materials, that it's really easy to do. And it's been really great to be able to have that resource on campus and kind of introduce people to what that means. So that is definitely our largest accomplishment, I would say. And I'm very proud of it.
Thank you, Cassie. Next, I'll introduce Priya Deshmukh. Priya is a senior at Xavier University, co-chair of Xavier Student Sustainability, and a member of the Climate Task Force. Priya, same question for you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. But yes, my name is Priya. And as Claire said, I'm on Xavier Student Sustainability, and our greatest accomplishment is actually happening right now. One of our board members established a student group called the Climate Task Force, which, as Claire said, I am a member of. And at the beginning of this semester, we met with Xavier's president, Dr. Colleen Hanich, to discuss sustainability at Xavier, its ties to our Jesuit values, and future sustainable measures that could be implemented on campus to make Xavier a more sustainable place. And since it is her first year as president, it was definitely a big moment for us. We showed her how important sustainability is to students and also made it known how behind Xavier is to other universities, which was really important to us, and we wanted to stress that. And now Xavier Student Sustainability, we're working on making it a permanent extension of the club by finding underclassmen to replace the seniors who are graduating this year. So on a personal level, it was definitely a very big moment for me. I mean, I joined XSS my sophomore year to, you know, explore my own sustainability, but also create a culture of sustainability on campus. And for XSS, it's also a huge accomplishment because we're getting access to the university's president, which we didn't have before. And hopefully it'll lead to actual sustainable changes being made on campus.
Thank you, Priya. Now I'll turn to Erin Ford, a senior at Cincinnati State Technical and Community College. Erin is the public representative of the Environmental Club and president of the Beekeeping Club on campus. Erin, same question.
Well, here at Cincinnati State, the Environmental Club likes to promote environmental awareness in the interest of all the students that are taking more of the green academic study programs as well as the other programs. A lot of people are interested in being more active in leading a sustainable lifestyle. Our club plans, hosts, and likes to gather sponsors for our annual Earth Jam event that we host on campus as a way to pay homage to like Earth Day and all sorts of sustainable practices. We bring in local sponsors and companies that provide ecological services and products, and just kind of help spread more awareness of the things that we can do on a local level. I would have to say that one of our most cherished accomplishments occurred back in 2018. Our very own Ann Gunkel and about a dozen or so EVT students volunteered their time and labor to help participate in the first ever interbasin transfer of mussels in the Ohio River. These mussels are a form of mollusk, and they help keep bodies of water clean by filtering out oxygen and particles from the water, and they absorb what they consume into their bodies and shells, and that kind of helps keep the local riverways clean. On that day, they relocated approximately 500 mussels from the Williamsburg Dam into the Mill Creek area, where they haven't been seen for more than 100 years. And they also spent the day helping to eradicate invasive species and replanting more local fauna and flora into the area.
Thank you, Erin. Next, I would like to introduce Delaney Malloy, a second-year student at the University of Cincinnati. Delaney works as a sustainability advocate for the university and is a fellow at the Post Landfill Action Network. Same question for you, Delaney.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. As Claire said, I'm a fellow with the Post Landfill Action Network, and through this, I'm the representative for Plan at UC. And we have a bunch of different students across the area. So one's at West Virginia University, one's at Marshall University, and there's about 8 of us in this program. And what we're trying to do, we're trying to create a zero waste, plastic-free campus. So with this goal, I've launched a Beyond Plastic Pledge. So basically what that means is we're trying to get President Pinto, our president at UC, to sign this pledge. And it's just basically saying that he's gonna get rid of all plastics on campus, reevaluate how the university is using their plastics, and how they can create this culture on campus. So I'm really proud about this pledge, and it's a petition that you can find on change.org if you look up Plastic Free Cincy. And we also have an Instagram if you guys are interested in any more information about that. So yeah, I think it's a really great accomplishment, and we're getting signatures and attention, which is great. So students on campus are really worried about this issue.
Thank you, Delaney. Finally, I would like to introduce Jimmy Renton, a sophomore at Northern Kentucky University and founder of the Northern Kentucky Sunrise Movement Hub on NKU's campus in 2020. Jimmy, same question.
Hi, thank you, Claire. So I would say our greatest accomplishment that Sunrise has achieved despite starting up during the pandemic, which is, I guess, a feat in its own. I'd say some of the biggest things that we've done on our campus are encouraging sustainability through our university administration. And because of the work that we did in 2020 and that students did before we came here in 2020, at least, because I know I'm a sophomore, so 2020 was the year I came here, and that's also the year Sunrise came here. It's just continuing to push for sustainability, which has led to sustainable plans for the first time in NKU's 2020 master plan. It's the first master plan that includes a plan to try and phase out our power plant here at NKU. Another thing that we've done is we've been able to create change in the student through the means of getting our members elected to the student government here. Recently, I authored and helped pass a resolution to establish an official Office of Sustainability, which is currently hopefully being implemented. And then we've also done various things like just making environmentalism more of a thing that's aware on NKU's campus. So a lot of students typically don't have the time of day to think about things like environmentalism or activism because we're students and we have to deal with so many other things like our grades and our social lives and just everything else that a young person has to deal with. But by bringing Sunrise Movement and empowering other sustainability activists on campus and by being loud and out and open about it, we've been able to bring more of a sustainability awareness and been able to have more of a focus on sustainability and other aspects of university life that maybe didn't have a focus on sustainability. So just simply raising awareness and also making sure that sustainability is being implemented incrementally into plans and taking steps forward to make campus more sustainable, I'd say is our greatest accomplishment, and doing all of that during a pandemic. It's truly amazing the growth that Sunrise has seen on this campus, as well as the work that we've done with other organizations like the Environmentally Concerned Organization of Students on campus, as well as Organization for Women's Rights. And then another thing is just our biannual basic needs drive that we do, where we collect lightly used clothing, non-perishable food items, and hygiene products to deliver to homeless shelters in the Northern Kentucky region. And that's kind of become a tradition on our campus, and it was started by Sunrise. So those are just a few things to name.
Thank you, Jimmy, and thank you to all the panelists for your thoughtful responses. For the next question, I'll return to Drew. Drew, students face unique challenges stemming from income and resource barriers that can make the idea of a sustainable lifestyle seem unattainable or unrealistic. What is your advice for students or anyone who faces socioeconomic barriers to adopt sustainable practices on a budget? You have 3 minutes.
Yeah, so I think people don't realize like the really small everyday changes that they can make to their lives to be a more sustainable individual. One thing that I think is possible for most students and people facing challenges adopting a more sustainable lifestyle is using reusable products. So for example, refilling stations for reusable water bottles are super popular, especially on college campuses. Making it really easy to reduce waste and save money on like cases of water bottles. Another example is like purchasing Tupperware and reusable utensils for packing food for those of us who don't have meal plans on campus. And that's just another great way to cut down on spending and waste. In the past, MSJ has had carry your own trash bag events in which students carry around trash bags for a week and put all of the trash in it, excluding food items. And at the end of the week, they can realize how much like plastic and other products that they throw away. So it just makes people more mindful and motivated to look for those small changes that they can make in their lives. A lot of students get caught up in life and just don't think twice about the everyday things that they're using that could be changed to more sustainable products. So events like this can help students become more aware the products are going away. And unfortunately, we haven't had any in a while due to COVID, but it's something I would love to bring back.
Thank you, Drew. Cassie, same question to you. You also have 3 minutes.
All right, so my mantra is always just to use what you have. I think especially in the zero waste movement and when speaking about alternatives, it's easy to kind of fall into the trap, especially on social media, where it seems like you need to buy all these new sustainable products in order to be sustainable, when that really isn't the case. So I would encourage students to just look at what they're already using and kind of try to think of how could I make this item have a second life? And it could be something like using an old egg carton as planters for your herbs, maybe more accessible for students who live off campus, I will say. Or, using old t-shirts and just using them as rags or things like that. And beyond that, if somebody is looking to be more sustainable or they're not happy with how much waste they're producing, I would encourage them to do a waste audit. So for those of you who don't know what a waste audit is, this is something that my other student org, EcoReps, does on campus. What we do is we go to each of the residence halls every semester and we look through all of their trash and we pick out what could have been recycled from that. And then we take a weight, so by volume, of how much could have been recycled out of what people threw away. And recently we've also started looking at food waste, and some of those percentages are extremely shocking. We were noticing full pizzas being thrown away, things like that, things you wouldn't expect necessarily. And that's why we started recording the food waste data. Just this past weekend, we had one residence hall with over 25% of their waste being food by weight, which is an incredibly high percentage. So I think sustainability also comes down to just being aware of what you're throwing away and kind of like, maybe somebody else in my residence hall would eat this, or, trading with people. That's also part of sustainability for me. And you can also do a waste audit on yourself. So you can kind of look through your trash at the end of the week or something and kind of pick out what you really found value in. Was this really necessary for me, etc. So there's a lot of ways to look into it, but I think just to end my little speech here, just picking and choosing what's for you. You don't have to do everything to be sustainable. You don't have to buy special products or anything like that. But yeah, that would be my advice.
Thanks, Cassie. Priya, I'll turn to you next. Same question.
So personally, I think the first step is to find a community that understands your income and resource barriers. It can be at your school, through friends and family, on social media. Social media has definitely been a big source of community for me. And you can see how these individuals overcome their limitations and adopt some of the ways that they live more sustainably. I would also say that you should be satisfied with making small changes. I think Cassie and Drew both touched on this. The zero waste movement has gained a lot of traction, and I think it is a great thing, but overhauling your entire lifestyle is not feasible for most people because it takes time and a lot of money. Instead, as Cassie said, identify the least sustainable areas of your life and make changes in those areas. So that can be cooking plant-based for yourself, which honestly is usually cheaper than eating meat. And you can bring a reusable coffee cup to coffee shops, or even just limiting the number of clothes in your wardrobe. Also, my last piece of advice is to be okay with being imperfect. If you can't afford sustainable brands or don't have access to thrift stores, for example, then buy from fast fashion companies. Maybe just lessen the number of clothes you buy or how frequently you buy them. I mean, personally, I am a perfectionist, so I used to always feel guilty for whenever I compromised on my sustainable values for the sake of staying on a budget. But I really don't anymore, because I know that every day I'm working to learn about sustainability, but also just live as sustainable as I can on that specific day. And that's good enough for me.
Thank you, Priya. Erin, same question for you.
So by choosing to practice a more sustainable lifestyle, you're making choices on a daily basis that are going to positively impact the planet that we're living on. And when you actively prioritize the use of like eco-friendly products and the practices, you're going to start generating less waste, and you're going to kind of see how your actions ultimately impact your surroundings. I know one of the big issues a lot of people think when it comes to adopting this kind of lifestyle is more of like the initial cost of eco-friendly products. It can make it a little more daunting and difficult for people that are, maybe low income or on a fixed income. But there are more budget-friendly ways to, make an impact, no matter how big or small. One of the things that in my household we like to do, we tend to upcycle and downcycle whatever we can. It's important to really get as much use out of every product that comes into our house as we can. We don't really like to throw a lot of things out. One of the things that we do is to reuse a lot of the cloth items that come in. So we don't really ever throw clothing out. We like to either make new outfits out of them. We've also used them to create cloth diapers, cleaning rags, rugs, and even quilts. And by doing this, we've not had to buy single-use products because we're replacing the need to buy these single-use products. By upcycling, we're reducing the need to extract and create materials for these items to be manufactured. So even if you can't go out and buy the latest and greatest gadget or cleaning product or anything like that, you can always look around at what you do have and see if you can find a new way to use it.
Thank you, Erin. Delaney, same question for you.
So I agree with all of the other panelists and what they said. This is great advice. So the advice I have for you all is, especially like if you're a student listening to this and you're on a budget, which I know probably most of us are, it can be really hard grocery shopping and kind of knowing what you'll get and knowing what's going to last long. And honestly, personally, sometimes I've had the trouble of like throwing away a lot of the food that I don't eat throughout the week. So my advice to you is to create a list, see what you'll eat during the week, see what the shelf lives are like, and then you can shop sustainably from there. Because I think, as Cassie was saying, like food waste is a serious problem on college campuses. So to divert your own individual waste, just shop for what you need, know what you need and what you'll eat throughout the week. And if you're going to a dining hall, I mean, you can always go back for seconds. I know that's not a problem. So just eat what you'll think you're going to eat and then go from there. And you can always go back to the store or back to the dining hall.
Thanks, Delaney. And Jimmy, same question for you.
Awesome, thank you. So I definitely agree with every other panelist here. We can be doing individual changes in our own lives to be living more sustainably. But I think there's an important statistic that we're leaving out when we're talking about this, and it is that corporations, at least as of 2017, about 100 corporations count for 71% of carbon emissions that are emitted into our atmosphere. So what we need to do is not only look at a way to change how we are living in our individual lives, because even if everyone does do that, we still have that 71% still going into the atmosphere if corporations don't change what they're doing. So what we need to do is we need to start using our voices. We need to start using our voices to get corporations to listen to us. That can be in forms of boycotts. That can be in forms of petitions and protests. That can be advocating for legislation, advocating for a carbon tax, advocating for these incentives for corporations to reduce their carbon emissions. But also we can be advocating locally on our own campuses. I know that NKU right now cannot really transfer away from fossil fuels due to Kentucky state statute. At least that's what I've been told by university administrators that I've met with in the past. So what we can do, at least on NKU's campus, is start advocating for change in state statutes for universities to be able to determine where they're going to get their energy, so that one, universities can possibly save money, and two, universities can start going greener in terms of their energy, and we can have these roadblocks out of our way. So as well as to making these changes in our individual lives, we can start using our voices and using the power of the people to start advocating for these widespread changes. And I think that's something that definitely gets lost in these conversations. We all have a voice and we're all able to use it. So being able to use our voice to get corporations to stop emitting that 71% of CO2 emissions, to start advocating for carbon taxes, and start advocating for incentives from the federal, state, and local governments, I think we can truly make some change, and that can be done in various ways. It can be done through protests, petitions, activism. It can be done for running through office. In Kentucky, you have to be 18 to run for a legislative city council in the state of Kentucky, in any city. So if you're a young person over 18, you can run for office. If you're over 21, you can run to be mayor of your city in Kentucky. And if you're over 25, you can run for Congress, run for Senate, run for president, start running to make these changes if you're passionate about it, because in the end, it's going to take a movement to be able to get into these seats of power and deliver the change that we need.
Thanks, Jimmy. Now I'd like to turn to our final question before handing it over to Erin and opening it up to questions from the audience. So the students on this panel represent 6 different local universities. You are each very involved in environmental work on your campus. Thinking about the future, how might universities work together collaboratively across campuses to make greater impact in our community, and why is that important? Drew, I'll return to you first. You have 2 minutes for this question.
I think this question is kind of answered by what we're doing here today in a way. I don't think there's definitely not enough communication about what's going on at different universities as far as sustainability practices go. Sustainability committees at each university could meet each year and discuss changes that have been made or plans for future changes. If a university has sustainability practices that are successful, everyone would benefit if those ideas were shared with universities in the area. Communication is key because we're all ultimately working towards the same goal to reduce our negative environmental impact. If we share our plans and ideas, we could work towards that goal a lot more effectively. So my best answer would be to have a meeting like maybe twice a year, not even necessarily in a panel style like we are here today, but more of a discussion-oriented meeting with university representatives where we could share ideas, talk about what we're doing at each university, and just keep the universities connected.
Thank you, Drew. Next, I'll turn to Cassie. Same question for you, Cassie.
Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of like jumping off of what Drew said, I agree with all of those things. I think what we're doing here today is the first step, because I don't know about the other panelists, but personally, I've not known of any event like this in the past, speaking between other universities. And speaking about Miami, it's hard enough just getting us together between the different environmental organizations. Our Student Sustainability Council, which composes all of those sustainability organizations at Miami, is only in its third year right now. And that was something that was needed long before that. So I think it's an even greater jump to, start speaking to other universities. And it is difficult. Obviously, we've not had that avenue before, but that's why I'm so grateful for this opportunity and to make these connections. And yeah, I don't have much more to add than that. I think we should continue to do events such as this and remain in contact, and kind of inform our peers and other students at our universities that this is something we should be doing, we should be fostering, because I think it's really easy to feel alone in a lot of the things we're doing. When I first spoke to the panelists as we were planning this event, the idea of a pop-up thrift store was so different, and I didn't know about the things these other universities were doing. I didn't know they were possibilities. So it's definitely something I think we should continue to do, and just remain in contact as much as we can and pass down that knowledge to our younger students.
Thank you, Cassie. Priya, same question for you.
Yeah, I mean, just to echo what Cassie and Drew have both said, I think it definitely starts with students and staff and administration leaving the bubble of their campus to go speak to other universities, especially the universities that they're in proximity with. I mean, for Xavier, UC is literally, 5 to 10 minutes away. And I think we have a great resource there. Clubs like for XSS specifically, we could collaborate with them and put on events, but also just sit down with them and ask them how, what programs they're doing, how they're advocating for sustainability on their campus. And the universities, especially, I'm speaking about Cincinnati, but they have a lot of influence in the city. They bring a lot of people in through students, through staff, prospective students. So I think that they can definitely reach out to the city and, advocate for sustainability, partner with the city to, make it a part of Cincinnati's culture, Cincinnati's culture. And also digital technology has been a huge part of the pandemic. And I think we've all been forced to get used to it, especially college students. And we have a unique opportunity to put on events like this over Zoom. And it doesn't take as much planning as it did before. So that is an obstacle that we don't have to worry about. I think also social media is so powerful. I started following Zero Waste, Miami Zero Waste Instagram. So, and I love seeing everything that they're doing. And I already am getting ideas and things I want to suggest to the board to maybe do for future years after I graduate. But
Thanks, Priya. Erin, same question for you.
There we go. Okay, so we're pretty much living in a world right now where all of us have access to information on just about everyone and everything right in the palm of our hand. So I feel like we should really take advantage of this networking opportunity just to sort of stay connected and find different ways for us to continue to do, things like this. Like this summit is just proof that all of our respective schools have similar passions in terms of like sustainability, stewardship, and the environment in general. I think some things that we can do in the future would be maybe to continue to do summits like these, like Drew suggested, or maybe even something as small as like a podcast. That way, maybe the whole group doesn't have to, come together regularly. We can always maybe delegate somebody to a different topic and we can all just sort of discuss that together and then post it on a public forum so other people can listen to it. Because I know me personally and a lot of my peers like to listen to podcasts and other informative seminars in their free time just so we can stay aware of what's going on in the world. So if we could probably do something like that, I think that would be really nice.
Thank you, Erin. Delaney, same question for you.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that all the other panelists have said with trying to stay connected. And I mean, I feel we can see here that we're all very passionate about these issues and climate change and zero waste across all of our campuses. So this is an issue that needs to be talked about. And I think it's only going to be solved within a community because it's an issue that affects the whole community. So communication is definitely key. And I don't know, as a college student, I check my emails religiously. So if we could create like an email newsletter and have these select universities and possibly more, we could each have like a student delegate that writes a little blurb, and it can be monthly. It doesn't have to be weekly about what they're doing on that campus. And then it's just going to be so easy to send it out to masses of students, because I know on my college campus, people are always asking me like, how can I get involved in sustainability? How can I help? And I feel like this would be a great way for students to find an opportunity to help on their campus and on other campuses. So if anyone is open to that idea, let me know. But yeah, I agree with all the other panelists. These are all great ideas and I'm really excited.
Thank you, Delaney. Now, last but not least, Jimmy, same question for you.
I definitely agree with what every other panelist has said regarding this issue, is the fact that we just need to be communicating more and connecting with each other. And I think events like this is definitely a great start, and we need to continue to be doing these events. Another thing we can do is start calling for similar goals from each university. If there is something that each university that we represent is not doing, we can collectively call for every university that we represent to take a collective action and fix what they're doing wrong. Ultimately, it's going to take collective action. And like I said earlier, it's going to take a movement to be able to get stuff going. So that means advocating for things with other universities, resharing, like Sunrise can repost stuff that Zero Waste Miami is calling for things to be done at Miami University. And likewise, if we're calling for something to be done at Northern Kentucky University, that may have already happened at Miami. So just looking at what each other is doing and drawing inspiration from that, but also finding our common flaws in terms of what our universities are doing, and just calling for collective action can be an immense boost, not in just morale to sustainability advocates. Because if you're a sustainability advocate, it's kind of like a repetitive thing. You're told, yes, this is a concern to us, but we don't have the time. We don't have the resources. We don't have this to be able to accomplish this. We don't have the legal ability to be able to accomplish this. But if we just keep continuing to push and call for collective action, and as a collective, as a community, not just individual university students and organizations, I think we can definitely deliver change, because I know Northern Kentucky University prides itself on being a regional leader. So if we have other organizations and students in the region calling for this, then it'll prove that it's not just an issue to one organization on this campus, but is an issue to the region.
Thank you, Jimmy, and thank you to all of our panelists for your time and your wonderful, thoughtful responses. Now I'll hand it back to Joanne, and I think we're going to open it up to questions from the audience. Thank you all.
Well, thank you. This was absolutely inspiring, and I really enjoyed listening to everybody. So we're not done. So we have the second part. And now, so the first set of questions were developed by the panelists themselves. They figured out the topics that they wanted to talk about, but we couldn't talk about everything. And so we thought the second half of this program would be from the audience, the questions. And so the easiest way, because there are nearly 60 people on this call, which is wonderful. But rather than just opening it up to everybody just chatting, we have asked that you please put your questions and make them into a question in the comment. And I'm going to introduce Erin, because Erin will moderate the second part of the program. So I have the honor of introducing Erin Palmaso, and I think I messed it up. Palmasano, a sophomore at Mount St. Joseph University, volunteers for Rivers Unlimited, gathering samples and monitoring water quality in local creek beds. So Erin, please take it away.
Thanks, Joanne. Okay, so we got a pretty good amount of questions to get through. So first up, we're going to go to Priya and Delaney. The following question is there support from your university on the actions that you're trying to accomplish? And what ways do you feel that that support can be added to your overall goal? So let's go Priya first and then Delaney.
Yeah, so I think this is a great question, especially where we're at right now at Xavier. So on a student and staff level, I mean, it's definitely there. I felt it all 4 years. I've witnessed it in meetings, but definitely the administrative level is where we've struggled. And I think that's why we met with Dr. Hanich. It's our first year as Xavier's president, as I said, so this is a new administration. And we really wanted to take that opportunity to stress to her as she's, you know, kind of starting to create her strategic plan, that sustainability should be a priority. And students really care about it. Staff have advocated for it. Previous students have advocated for it. So her response was very positive, and she comes from a university where they did start making sustainable changes, but she's not the only one. There's a board of directors, there's donors that we need support from, and personally, we don't have access to them. So I don't know. I think we're kind of waiting to see what happens, but May, when she releases her plan, will be really telling, I think.
Awesome, thank you. Delaney, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, definitely. I'm just going to speak about UC's campus. So I work for the sustainability office, and the sustainability office gives out an opportunity to students to work for them and to kind of like build sustainability on campus. So this is a great opportunity, but we're mostly architecture and like design and planning and environmental science students. So it's kind of this hidden gem on campus. And within this job and within the office, I feel like we're doing some great things, and it's very progressive, and we're getting up to administration and trying to change some things. But again, it's a hidden gem, and it's not really seen in other aspects of campus, like the business school or the engineering school. It's not really heard of. So like administration wise and President Pinto wise, I feel like we could see a lot more support for the sustainability office and the great things we're implementing on campus.
Awesome, thank you. I have a question for Jimmy from the chat. The following question is, how can community members help encourage students to vote for progressive candidates who are committed to supporting environmentally sound legislation? What specific things can we do to help engage students in this regard?
That is an amazing question. So something that community members can do is if you are, say, passionate about a candidate and they're campaigning, join their campaign and start reaching out to college students on behalf of that campaign if you're able to, or get the campaign to reach out to college students and organizations on college campuses. And then have, candidates come in and talk to college students, or someone from the campaign come and talk to college students. And then just encourage, mobilization from there. Something that I know Sunrise does, we did this back in 2020, it worked immensely, is if you're going to go vote, text 3 of your friends and tell them to go vote, and then tell them to do the same. So that way you have a voting chain. And that worked immensely, especially amongst young people. If you're able to volunteer time, give people rides to voting. Some young people who want to vote, especially in urban areas, don't have the ability to get to voting stations. I know in 2020 in Louisville, where I'm from, there was one polling station for the entire city, which is a county that makes up of like 700,000 people. So being able to have those means of connecting with people can definitely get people out to vote and learning more about candidates. So it's just college students most of the time don't have the time to reach out to community. So the community has to reach out to the college students. And that's just because we have so many things going on. I know I personally, I'm a music major, so that's already stressful enough. And then add in that I'm a sustainability advocate. That's also a bit of a stressful job. And things just pile up from there. And that's what tends to happen to college students. So we just don't have the time to be able to reach out to community. So I would say you definitely have to reach out to younger people and learn some methods from younger people on how to get out to vote. And definitely, the text 3 friends and have them text 3 friends is an amazing way of getting people out to vote. And that's one of the many things. But I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you, Jimmy. The next question is going to be for Drew. How can you go about taking your wonderful sustainability efforts back to your high school alma maters, or do you recall any of these efforts from your time in high school?
Yeah, so I graduated from Elder High School, which is about 10-15 minutes from the Mount, and I actually went to grade school right down the street on the same road, Neeb Road, as the Mount as well. So there weren't too many sustainability options at either school. It wasn't something that was emphasized in education as much, but both schools they are very loving of their alumni. So I'm sure that taking something back to them, they would absolutely be open to suggestions and stuff like that. Like Elder is obviously very big on their football games, so changing concessions products is maybe where I would start there. Or like I said before, bringing Beyond the Bin recycling program to schools in the area as well.
Great. Anyone else have any programs at their high schools that, inspired sustainability from when you were there? Okay, well, that sounds like a project for us to get working on. The next question is going to be for Cassie. How can non-university communities surrounding the university faith communities, neighborhood associations, support student and other initiatives and sustainability on your campuses?
Yeah, so this is a really great question. And what comes to mind first is that, college students are only in university for so long, an average of 4 years for our universities here. And I think it's really easy for institutional knowledge to get lost. I know, and I'm sure many of us here, being juniors and seniors, some of us understand what it's like to kind of go through leadership turnover. We're dealing with that right now, my executive team for both of my student organizations. And meanwhile, community organizations, like all of those mentioned in the question, are in the community and they see that turnover, right? So I think those organizations could definitely help student organizations in reminding them of past events or bringing up those things. Because there's things even that haven't happened on Miami's campus in years and years, and things I don't know about because I wasn't here, but those communities were. And kind of like echoing what Jimmy said too, I think it's important for community organizations, if they're invested in sustainability, to reach out to the student organizations and kind of initiate contact. Because one, I think sometimes it can be intimidating. Those spaces might not feel like a space for college students sometimes. And also we're busy, as Jimmy said. But I don't know if any of you were able to see the comment in the chat from John and Jackie Seymour, but they said it's important to teach both communities how to interact with each other's demographics, which I think is a really interesting and important point because, I don't personally have a lot of experience speaking to older generations about sustainability, and I would imagine vice versa. And that's an important thing to be learning in order to make progress in all of these things we've talked about today. So I think, just being there for students as a resource and kind of making that presence known is a really good place to start and would be extremely helpful. I know especially that's the case for Miami, and I would imagine all of our universities here today.
Awesome, thank you, Cassie. The next question is going to go to Erin. There are multiple questions about composting, and if anyone else has any composting on the programs on their campus, feel free to chime in. But the question is there any composting programs on any of the campuses? And is that information waiting to be spread, awareness on composting and its benefits? So Erin, go for it.
Well, unfortunately, on my campus, we do not have any dedicated system for composting any food waste or any organic waste that can be considered for composting. But I know a lot of the students in the environmental club practice creating their own composting at home, because a lot of us try to make gardens at home. A lot of us want to try to help combat, and reduce our carbon footprint in any way we can. So we try to grow our own produce. And an important step of that is creating our own compost. It will help us reduce our waste that we make, as long as it is safe to put in your compost. We'll be keeping that from going to the landfills that we all have to smell in certain areas of the city. It's not always pleasant, but neither is composting. If being perfectly honest, the smell is not always the best. My neighbor doesn't like it sometimes if it gets too hot, but I know that there would probably be a lot of people on our campuses definitely interested in not learning about it. If they didn't learn about it for their own sake, starting up programs on our different campuses, I think would be very beneficial, because I recall Cassie talking about how there was a lot of food waste when they were doing the audits at their different resident halls. So I think if we were to start adopting more of a compost policy on our campuses, we would really be combating food waste, and it would really make a lot of the students, more aware of what we're throwing away and how we can keep it from going into landfills.
Awesome, thank you. Cassie, I see a question here adding on to one of your earlier statements. It was about the importance of being connected, that people can feel alone in this work. So what has helped you to keep going when the magnitude of the issues feels so urgent, overwhelming, and it feels like others aren't doing enough?
Yeah, I think the simplest answer to this is community. I wouldn't frankly care as much as I do and be wanting to learn more and adapt and kind of learn about what we can do to deal with climate change and all of that stuff if I didn't have peers who were like-minded. And I was fortunate enough to find those communities in my student organizations and otherwise my first year at Miami. And, you know, if I didn't have those communities to fall back on, one, would not be who I am, and two, probably wouldn't be as passionate as I am about sustainability. And I think a lot of us here probably agree with that sentiment. You know, like even this panel here today is giving me hope and like understanding that other universities care as much as we do at Miami. And it's just really exciting to see, and it definitely takes that feeling of being alone away, for me at least.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Priya, this next question is going to go to you. There's a perception that business goals and sustainability are oftentimes at odds with each other. So what specific actions might you be able to take through your campus programs to overcome this perspective?
That's a great question. I think for college students, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I think it's difficult for us to really have an impact while we're still students. I think what we can do though is educate ourselves about the topic. And I think all of us here are doing a great job of doing that. And then take that knowledge into the working world. I know like Gen Z, for example, which all college students are a part of, that one of our biggest values is becoming sustainability, and we buy from brands and support businesses based on that. For many of us, not all, but many of us. And I know personally, like I am a digital media major. I am not studying environmental science, but I'm hoping to take this knowledge and bring that into the business world through advertising and marketing, and you know, have that influence in companies and stress to them that this is, if you want to make money, then you have to start prioritizing that, especially for the younger generations. You're not going to get our support if you don't care about the environment. So that would be my answer, is for younger people on this panel, learn as much as you can, take classes if you have time in your schedule related to sustainability, and then take that knowledge into the working world. I mean, you have a perspective, and share that with people, and hopefully people will listen.
Awesome. Thank you, Priya. This next question is going to go to Jimmy. Sort of adds on to his earlier comments. So what do you think is the most effective way to increase voting and running for office among your university peers who don't often vote regularly to influence the legislative and political support for the environment and sustainability?
Yeah, so definitely when it comes to especially getting people who may not be super politically active out to vote, is just have conversations with them. Like be a real person. Don't like try to like sell it to them like you're a business person. Just have a real conversation about it and why it matters, you know, and try to connect it with, you know, their personal lives and their ambitions of the future, because climate change is a threat to everyone. It doesn't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, gay, straight, black, white. Climate change doesn't care. Climate change is going to affect climate change is going to affect everyone, whether you like it or not, whether you believe in it or not. It's going to impact everyone. And I think that's something that definitely should be stressed when we're talking about things like the Green New Deal and the Build Back Better Act. And something else that we can do to get more people running for office is start small. If you're a university student, run for your student government and start creating change in your student government. I know I've been doing that quite a bit at NKU, and I'm sure every student government has its problems. But you know, definitely start running in your student governments. If you are able to run for a local office and it won't take up too much time from your schedule, run for a local office, whether it's, you know, being a district water manager, or being a city council member, and just continue to push and advocate for stuff. And, you know, bring people along with you. Teach people how to do it. Some people don't want to get involved in activism and stuff like this because they don't know how they do it. We can oftentimes get imposter syndrome. Like, you know, we're so young and we we're told all our lives, oh, you don't know much because you're so young, you'll know more when you get older. So when we do these big things like advocate for stuff within a university, and oftentimes clash heads with university administration, when we go out into the community and advocate and protest, these feel like very big steps, and we're like, should we really be doing this? Just have that confidence. So I guess just to circle it back around is use these techniques to get people out to vote and encourage people to get out to vote, and just stress that, there's a humanitarian and economical, is that a word? That's a word now. There's an economic, there we go, economic cost to climate change. Just be real and talk about straight up facts, because that's your best weapon, is the truth. And unfortunately, it's a really honest truth for a lot of people. So just be honest and persist and everything like that. Yeah, I think, sorry, I ramble. Anyways, I digress. That's what I
Totally
have.
good. Thank you, Jimmy. The next question is going to go to Delaney. Would it be helpful to offer workshops for your university on how businesses and universities are saving money by investing in energy efficiency and also at the same time reducing their carbon footprint? So your thoughts on that?
When it comes to energy efficiency and your carbon footprint at your university, I know there are a lot of great resources out there to actually figure out what your university is investing in, and just kind of where all that money is going. So what I found at UC, because I did a little research before this, there was, let me think, I think it was called Fossil Free UC. And they created a petition to advocate for UC to become fossil free and to kind of just not invest in fossil fuels anymore. I don't know if they were effective, or if the petition worked, or if they got the Board of Trustees' attention. But that's just some of the things that have been kind of going on in UC. But yeah, I feel like where you should start if you wanted to address this issue is actually figure out where your money is going at your university and what your university is investing in, because I feel like that shows you a lot about where administrators' heads are in regards to sustainability, and then you can attack that at your university from there.
Awesome, thank you. Drew, I know you did a little work, on carbon footprints on campus. Is there anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, so like kind of similar to like the fossil free UC kind of thing. Like, I don't know, probably most of you know that the Mount St. Joe was founded by the Sisters of Charity, and they actually are working on, they have solar panels there now. I believe they're trying to implement more of that. And I know we just built our new rec center, and there are plans to put solar panels on the roof to kind of reduce the fossil fuel usage at MSJ.
Awesome, thank you so much. Erin, this next question is for you. It's putting you in a little bit of a hypothetical situation. So pretend you are 11 years old and there's a bill that you're trying to support. So how can you do this effectively?
Okay, so as a young person, I know a lot of people probably would think that I don't really understand the severity of the problem, but if that's the case, I can always go to people such as maybe my teachers or my parents or other adults that I look up to and sit down and ask them, how can I make this happen? How can I help let other people know about this issue? How can I, make this big? Like, how can I make all this information available to everybody so that they can vote on the issue? So I guess maybe I should come up with an issue if I want my local government to start taking more serious action on our carbon input or the carbon outputs. I should be talking to people that are in charge of passing these laws, I should see what they're trying to do. I want to be able to make an impact, and I want other people to help me with this. So I think the main gist of it is, if you don't think you can make that big an impact on your own, it's important to draw more people in, and they can help you, and they can also draw more people in, sort of like what Jimmy was talking about, how they help get people voting at his campus. It's similar to that. Just ask for help and people will show up, people will come and help you out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This next question, it's going to go to, I'll probably, anyone who wants to answer it can. There's a lot of talk about climate change and climate change on a global scale and what can be done locally to mitigate it. So let's go to Jimmy. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, what can be done to locally mitigate climate change is to start at the university level and get our universities to stop investing in fossil fuels. Because ultimately, universities are regional leaders, whether it's University of Cincinnati, Miami University, Northern Kentucky University, or Cincinnati State, or any other university in the area. Universities attract a lot of people and create a lot of economic impact. So if you have universities start to divest from fossil fuels, eventually businesses and the wider community will do that as well, because universities can set the stage for that. So starting to get our universities to create those changes is the first step. Another thing is start promoting and supporting small businesses that work around the clock to decrease their carbon footprint. And also make sure that you are advocating locally for policies that will decrease carbon emissions, whether it's setting a carbon tax on Duke Energy and saying, hey, if you do not start transitioning to more renewable source of energy, you're going to start losing more of your revenue to a carbon tax because you're emitting so much carbon into our atmosphere, which Duke Energy is one of the top emitters in the local Cincinnati area, being an energy company. So if we start having these policies implemented, not only at our university, but in our local areas, especially in maybe a city like Cincinnati or Covington, that can create a big change and really set off a tidal wave to help create a wider change. And you're going to have people that are going to argue that that's going to have an economic impact and is going to harm the economy. But at the end of the day, it's innovation. And quite frankly, capitalism right now is not breeding innovation. What's going to breed innovation is having these policies put forth by the government to innovate us away from fossil fuels and start making our area more sustainable and setting the stage for the rest of the United States to be able to follow suit.
Awesome. Thank you, Jimmy. And thank you to all the panelists with their great answers. That was all I had time for, so I'm going to hand it back to Joanne.
Okay. Well, thank you. This was absolutely awesome and inspiring, motivating. And I would just want you to know I'm so proud of all of you. We all met back in November and had no idea if this was even going to happen. And you all pulled it off and pulled it off beautifully. As young adults, I feel very assured about our future with you as leaders. Many of you are graduating. You're going to go out into the world and join the rest of us. And we are so glad that you're doing this. Some of the questions about meeting again and doing that, continuing, and Faith Communities Go Green is getting a new website, and we will be putting that website out hopefully within a month. And when we do, we're going to have, we're talking about having a tab for the young people to have a place to communicate. And one of the other ideas we talked about was to have some kind of process in your student government body so that it is continuous, so that it isn't just when somebody leaves, but rather it's a policy within your student government to continue this. And so there may be some way to do that. So we'll meet again to brainstorm some of these ideas that have come out of today's meeting. Again, thank you for all of the people that have come and asked their questions. They were wonderful questions, very obviously very well thought. So this program today is brought to you by Faith Communities Go Green, and our current website is at greenumbrella.org/faith. I can put that again into the, but obviously all of you have come here, had to register through that website. So look for our emails. Our emails come from fcgg@greenumbrella.org. And so if you don't have that in your address book, stick that into. So I think it's right on time. We're wrapping up. We said we would end this at 5:15. And so if everybody wants to unmute and give a cheer and applaud for these fabulous kids, young adults.
Yay! Good job.
Great job.
Good job.
And panelists, I hope you get a chance to read all the comments in the chat. They're wonderful, sweet comments. So thank you everybody for coming. And Geneva, is there a way we can save that chat for them?
Yes, it'll automatically save.
Oh, good. All right. So we can end this meeting. And we will resume with the panelists who did a great job. So
Bye-bye. Ciao. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Erin,